puts a little kick in, and they've made a mistake. Foran has scored. Foran dummy bounced away and scored a try. Kieran Foran showing it, beating two, reached out, he planted it down.
I guess as a kid coming through, that's all you see is those highs of a player, and that's the way it's always going to be. But it certainly does go the opposite way. It's peaks and troughs, and you had to sort of handle quite a few yourself.
Yeah, certainly. Found out along the way that, being a professional footy player isn't just about winning and success and, glory and fame. It's actually about a lot more than that, and being able to overcome the adversities and the hardship and the injuries and the setbacks and the dips in form and public sort of, I guess, scrutiny. So yeah, there's all that stuff that you learn along the way as you come through it, and I've gotten better at handling those things and dealing with those pressures as I've played more and more and lived more life. But yes, had certainly a lot of low moments and really hard times throughout the majority of my career.
How did you handle those lows at the time? Because, I mean, as we said, they're not really taught that it's coming up and how to sort of handle it. How did you first go through them? Because it was very up and down.
Yeah, I think initially for me that I only had small setbacks. Like I'd miss a few games through injury, and it was nothing that I couldn't handle or adjust to. And I was getting through that stuff okay. But then for me, it built over time. The injuries got slightly longer. My lifestyle away from rugby league became a little bit more chaotic, and I was dealing with more personally, and then you got to deal with the public scrutiny that comes with that. So yeah, there was no textbook or no, I guess, preparation that would prepare me for what I was going to go through. I think I had to walk it and endure it and go through it and get things wrong, and then sort of rewrite it and learn from my mistakes. I know that's a saying, but it's a cliche, but it really is true. As I sit here now, nearly 34, you do learn from your errors both on the field and off the field. And for me, it's just been a journey of rewriting the wrongs.
What was it like when you were going through those periods and being able to not see beyond that hurdle?
Yeah, well, I think I'd never really known too much about mental health and what it really was. As a kid, as a young man, no one really had experienced it in my inner circle or immediate family, so I was sort of not accustomed to it. And then probably around the age of 24, 25, I started to sense that maybe things weren't quite right in my head. Maybe I was experiencing some, really unhappy moments and thoughts and times. And I think that was a whole new journey I had to sort of become accustomed to, the fact that, I'd gone from being this happy young man and living out my dream and thinking how good life is, to all of a sudden thinking, oh, hang on a minute, this ain't all that it seems, and life ain't great, and I've got a lot of shit I actually need to deal with. So you certainly look back and wish you could have handled a number of things differently and better. But at the time, I was a young man, and now as I've gotten older, I look back and I play with guys now that are 24, 25, and you can understand why you get things wrong at that time of your life. You're still learning and developing and growing as a human being, and you haven't got it all worked out as much as you think you do, and you got a great job and you're earning lots of money, and you might be making some big decisions. At the end of the day, you don't really know it all, and you've got a lot to actually work out about life, and that was what I still had to work out.
Why was it so hard to have those conversations? Like, they say it's one of the bravest things to say, hey, I'm struggling, but it's so hard to say at the time.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. And I just remember I've always been a really private person. I was introverted kid. I'm still introverted in the sense that I don't like the spotlight and the limelight, and I don't like attention, and I don't like big groups, and I've always struggled with it. And I think that's especially hard on people that are like that.
Yeah.
And when you are battling some demons and going through some issues away from your professional life, trying to voice that to those closest to you can become really challenging. And I know for me, I just retreated.
Yeah.
You know, I cut off contact from those around me. I tried to internalise everything, but something you learn as we spoke about as you get a bit older and a bit wiser is that you can't do that. It's actually the start of a really dangerous process, because when you start to bottle that stuff up and internalise how you're feeling and not voicing it and getting the appropriate out, it'll come out in other ways. And for me, it did. It came out in all sorts of various habits and addictions, and it just compounded it. It makes things worse. It made my life so much worse than what it needed to be. And I think being able to have those conversations and like those chats with those people around you is so important, because they're actually the people that'll keep you accountable and help you get the appropriate professional help that you need.
You sort of got to that point where it could have gone the wrong way. To get out of that dark headspace to where you are now, how does that feel?
Oh, extremely proud and lucky. You know, I'm thankful every single day that I'm here on this earth, and I've been able to have a second chance at, you know, rewriting the wrongs and reliving my life, because it could have been so very different. You know, I don't say it lightly. You know, at 25, I did try and take my own life, and I didn't want to be on this earth. I didn't want to do it for various reasons, and you know, it happens every single day around us. So, you know, for me, it's so real on how different it could have been, and the collateral and the damage that could have been left behind for those closest to me. But I think ever since that day, I've made a commitment and a promise to myself that I would get every ounce possible out of my life and every ounce out of my career moving forward. And I sit here really, really proud today with the changes that I've made in my life, the decisions that I've made, and the way in which I've been able to rebound from where my career was and where my life was personally, because it was at an extremely low point. I would honestly tell that younger self to pull his head in, to make better decisions, to seek the correct help and not just try and find band-aid sort of quick fixes for how I was feeling. And I think learning how to sit in your emotions and actually deal with it is such a big part, and I've only really learned that later on in life, you know, this last few years, about being able to actually be comfortable with how your emotions go up and down.
Yeah.
And I think for me, for so long as a young adolescent and a young man, I didn't know how to deal when things weren't going right and when I was feeling not okay.
Yeah.
I needed something to mask that. I needed something to cover that, get me out of that feeling. I don't want to feel depressed. I don't want to feel angry, you know, so I'll go and drink, or I'll go and gamble, or, you know, go and make poor decisions off the back of that. And now for me, when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling angry or depressed, I'll go for a walk. I put my headphones in, I'll go for a walk, or I'll just go and sit down at the sand and sit on the beach, or I go and have a sauna or an ice bath, you know. I just wish that what I know now, I knew back then, but it's, you know, it's classic life, isn't it? You know, sometimes you've got to go down that path, realise what doesn't work, and then you get a chance to rewrite it, and that's certainly what I've been able to do now.
If you look around your change room in a football room, it's quite a few of your teammates that are going to be going through the same things. Does that put it a little bit more perspective of how important those chats are to have with your teammates and your mates?
Hugely. Yeah. And you would never know. That's the problem. I reckon professional athletes or people in general are great at masking and hiding how they're really feeling, and we need to get away from that.
Yeah.
We need to stop with making someone feel bad or not okay if things aren't right. You know, I think that especially in our game, you know, we don't want to come in looking out of sorts or sensing that something's not all right because it might affect whether we're picked on the weekend or whether we're selected or whether our mates are going to like us or our teammates are going to think, you know, we're a head case and something's not right. But, you know, I look around, we got a squad of 35 players, and you wouldn't know each and every day who's going through what. And it makes me realise that through my own journey, people would have had no idea for a lot of that time that just the demons I was fighting. And yeah, those conversations are huge. And as I've, you know, gone through this journey, I certainly make more of an effort to actually ask people, actually, how are you? You know, and when they give the same old response, yeah, I'm good, bro. You know, it's about actually going back and saying, yeah, but are you good? You know, what's going on outside of footy, and how's your home life, and are you battling any habits and addictions and things like that? Because you just don't know what people are going through away from when they come into training and then when they leave. And as you said, you know, so prominent in young men and especially professional athletes. Yeah, it's just so important that we are genuinely checking in on one another so that we can understand one another's lives better and be able to actually talk about the things that aren't going great.
There's that stigma, I guess, around men, and I know it's the same with women as well too, but it's that men have to be the tough and not have those emotional and vulnerable conversations, but there is so much strength in that vulnerability, isn't there?
So true. And it's a shame that we get to breaking point before that side comes out, you know, that we break, and then we can truly express how and the pain we've been going through. But yeah, I think showing that vulnerability at the start when you notice something's not okay within yourself, within your mind, you know, you are not coping or dealing with certain things. I think having that vulnerability at the start and just saying to your close mates or your teammates, hey, I'm actually going through something. And it's not weak to say you're depressed because you're going through a breakup at home or you're not seeing your kids or that you're battling addictions. That's not weak. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We live in a society now where people from all walks of life are battling various things. It's okay. It's actually really strong to step out of that and say, hey, I want help.
Yeah.
I'm going through something and I don't feel good about the decisions that I'm making. It's different for all sorts of, you know, different people about what internally makes them feel good about themselves. But yeah, honestly, for me, fresh air and exercise, I honestly believe exercise is an antidepressant. It is. I went on medication for 2 years after what I went through, and that's all well and good, and I have nothing against medication. People close to me take it every single day, and that's fine. But I often say to my wife, even this morning, I'm going for a walk, that's my antidepressant. And it is, you know, for me, just getting out, putting my exercise gear on, don't have to go and flog myself into the ground. I feel great after I do run myself into the ground, but it might just be as simple as going for a 4-kilometre walk, you know, near the ocean, listening to the waves. And for me, that just releases my endorphins and gets me feeling really positive about the day and really good about what's ahead.
Yeah.
And then I reckon it's about having structure in the afternoon, because often morning is okay. You know, we have a plan in the morning, we can get up, we can head off to work, or, you know, people have their various different jobs and walks of life. And for me, that was training for a long time in my life. You know, I had structure whilst I was at training. I knew my purpose, what I wanted to achieve that day. But where it became unsafe for me was the moment I left training.
Yeah.
If things weren't good for me on the home front, or I was battling demons in my own head, when I would leave training is when it would become a really vulnerable and dark place for me. And that was when I would go and make poor decisions and compound that feeling by, you know, heading to the pub and having a drink, or, going to the TAB and having a punt and doing those sorts of things that would just send me on a spiral down. And now, as I've gotten wiser, I've got structure around my afternoon. So, I know that when I leave training, what my afternoon looks like. So whether I stay at training for longer, they get jacking me at training, to be honest, because often the boys will leave in the afternoon and I'll hang around for another 2 or 3 hours. That could purely just be the sense that I know I'm in a safe place.
Yeah.
I know that at training I can't make a poor decision. I can't do anything wrong. So that might be just, getting physio treatment and just doing extra video and keeping myself really busy in the afternoon till it's time to actually come home, have dinner once with my wife once she's finished work, and then get into the evening and it starts to unwind for me. But as you can see, the things that I've mentioned there are healthy habits, not unhealthy and really destructive habits, which is what I used to do and now I try to avoid.
And you talk about having that good connect and good friendship connect as well too. I know you're a big fan of the surf. That's obviously why you asked us to shoot here today. Yeah. Joel Parkinson and Mick Fanning have been regulars of yours in the surf as well too, and they're both like great spokesmen for speaking out and being in that supportive area as well. Yeah, great guys, amazing human beings. I've known Parko for a number of years now, and gotten to know Mick as well, and they're just great icons and great sort of idols for young men to look up to. You look at their lifestyles and the way in which they use the water as their way of release and their way to connect and clear their mind and be comfortable. Each day is such an important piece, and incredible guys, both of them, and have certainly been doing some amazing work in this space. And I know recently you sort of got affected by mental health with the loss of a family member. It was a really tough time for you and your family to all go through that. How have you sort of handled that moving forward? Going through the loss of Logan was life-changing, and it's obviously something that it has affected the family deeply, none more than my wife, Karina, and all the kids and Logan's father and grandparents, and to see the effect that it's had on the immediate family and the extended family has been just huge. And I think it's for us as a family now, it's raised so much more awareness around obviously mental health and just what we want for our kids and for those people around us in the community and everything, everyone that's involved in life day to day. But it rocks you because you just know how quickly life can be taken from someone that you love, and for us it's destroyed and rocked our existence, and now we're on this battle to rebuild life and keep going, because the world doesn't stop, life doesn't stop. We've still got a whole lot of kids that need us, and people around us, and jobs and things like that. So you've got to learn to navigate life with this horrible loss and tragic loss. And watching the way my wife Karina's doing it is just extraordinary. And my main goal and focus is to be strong and remain strong for her, so that we can continue to embark on this journey through life, and be a spokesperson and do work and within the community to make sure that other families don't have to go through this sort of tragic event, because it is so prominent. And as I touched on earlier, through my own life, seeing how quickly it can turn and how real it is, and you want to know that you can help people and prevent people from going through it.
it needs to be spoken about and it needs to be raised, and we need to have conversations like this so that the next generation and people coming through understand that that's not the answer, that's not the fix, that taking your own life and, leaving this earth fixes nothing, solves nothing. And when you break it all down and you look back at it all, there's no issue that's too big to be solved. And those close to you will help you solve it and will help you get through it. But you've got to be prepared to reach out, and you've got to be prepared to be vulnerable, like what we said, and express yourself and say, hey, I'm not okay, and I'm really struggling, and I'm having dark thoughts. Can you do something about it? Had we known that's what Logan needed in those final weeks or final days, we would have been able to help. But unfortunately, no one knew. And that's the conversation that needs to be had for, this next generation. Voice how you're feeling and have open discussions. I wish I could have spoken like this now, the way we're talking now. I wish I could have spoken like that at 23 and had those open talks.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate you being so open and raw.
Thanks, Renee. Ta. Cheers.